In case you missed it, there's a Last of Us TV show airing pretty soon on HBO Max. It looks great, but there's just one thing. I've never played The Last of Us, so I thought it would be fun to play this game since the show looks so cool. The Last of Us is considered to be one of the best games ever, and I had been wanting to experience it for a while just to see what all the hype was about. But after playing over half of it, I didn't think that I would come to this conclusion. Hello world and all who inhabit it, it is I, the Great Seiran, and games becoming shows and movies is becoming more of the norm. From the Edge Runner anime to the Witcher series to the highly anticipated by me and my son Mario movie. That's fine and cool, but some people would argue that The Last of Us is already a movie. You just have the option to interact with it via PS3, 4, and now PS5 controller. Abundance of remasters aside, I don't know if I actually agree with that sentiment. I hear a lot of people in the Twitter sphere say that all of Sony's games are third-person over-the-shoulder interactive movies. And while I see where they're coming from, I don't know if I actually agree completely. Let me explain. God of War 2018 was the first game I played with that Sony style over-the-shoulder deep narrative gameplay where I noticed something different. I had played Uncharted and others like it, and even though those games were very similar to God of War, it didn't really hit the same because those games had always played like that. I had watched my big brother play God of War as a kid and remembered it as a fast-paced action-adventure hack and slash with cool puzzles and unique enemy types. When I first tried God of War back in 2020, I couldn't get through the first few hours. I eventually came around and even replayed all the games leading up to Ragnarok and made a video about how my perspective had changed. But I didn't know if I liked Sony's style of game or if I just really wanted to experience this new take on God of War. This is the same question I ask myself as I play The Last of Us. I don't like the combat, but I like the story. I hate the traversal and how you move around the world, but I love the characters that you're introduced to. I dislike all the things that make this game a game, but I wouldn't say that I dislike The Last of Us. Oxymoronic statement aside, it's even hard to say what makes a game a game. Is it the input method, a certain level of action, the fact that it's on a gaming device, or is it the ability for the enjoyer to make and create choices? Every one of those questions could be debated and opposed by a popular game that we consider to be a game. Super Mario World is a game, Halo 3 is a game, and The Last of Us being what it is a game. It's a different style of game and a lot of the game parts I don't like, but it is a game. The Last of Us is a very interesting title. I mentioned liking the story but not liking the combat, but I get why it is the way it is. You're in a wasteland and resources are scarce. You're usually outnumbered by either infected or normal people who want to harm you. The best way to proceed is with stealth. The best way to navigate this world is with strategy and patience because you're just one guy and a teenage girl. You don't have much in the form of brawn, so that leaves you with the brain. You have tools at your disposal like guns, melee weapons, and bombs for crowd control, but will you have to use them? Probably not. I'm a big fan of shooters, and the shooting in this game doesn't feel bad. It's weighted to portray accuracy. Firing and reloading is slow at first, but it's to encourage upgrading and experimenting with new weapons that fit your style. Everything is intentional. Even using the weapons is intentional. It's a drag, it's a pain. It makes straight-on combat against most enemy types impossible. I've died at least 20 times because I ran in head first just trying to clear out the enemies so I can progress through the story, the part I actually like, but the game stops you. Using weapons just seems pointless. You may be able to take down 2 or 3 enemies, but you'll never clear the hurt. When looking for Tommy, we had to go through a huge base of hunters, and after 4 tries, I decided I just would not use weapons and only take out 2 and at max 3 enemies with stealth and hope that got me through the encounter. I get that it's intentionally like that. Realistically, a 50-year-old man is not taking down a full base of enemies with a pistol and a 2x4. And I also don't like that. I like my main characters overpowered. I do like the apocalyptic feel with there being a scarce amount of ammo. That was a really nice touch by developers and plays into the limited weapon usage. The enemies are very aggressive and I like the challenge. It can feel impossible, but that's the point. The plot of this game is impossible. I died to the bloater boss 5 times before realizing that I could reload and sprint since his bloater bombs would hit me from behind cover. I don't think the difficulty of this game or my lack of skills is an issue. I really just didn't like the combat. Not that it was objectively bad or convoluted, I just didn't like it. I also think you just move too slowly. This is probably another design choice since Joel is 50 and can't be sprinting full speed like Sonic. But the difference between regular walking and sprinting is like 1 mile per hour. And why is L1 the sprint button? That's a weird choice. L3 is used often, but they could have given that to R3 and made L3 sprint. The slow pacing has value to the atmosphere of the game. Things are slow and take time as the world has ended and the things that make our current day world fast paced have all ended. I get the reasons behind the things I don't like, but it doesn't make me feel better about them. It actually makes every play session feel like a drag. I'm kind of hate beating this game. I want to know how the story unfolds, but getting there via self-debilitating combat and snail-paced movement makes me dread picking up my controller. I just came off the high of Bayonetta 3, God of War Ragnarok, and High on Life. I feel myself pressing O in combat sections to dodge, and instead I crouch and get eaten. It's me, I'm the problem, but I don't like these parts of the game, and if the story wasn't intriguing and the game wasn't as short as it is, I'd probably put this game down immediately like I have done with so many others. I've mentioned what I don't like, but I also want to mention what I do like. The reason this game is considered a classic: the story. The story is great. The opening scene establishes immediate connection with you and Joel. Seeing your child die in front of you is something no one should ever have to experience. When you meet Ellie, you immediately see the connection Joel has with her, though ragged at first. He has a lot of pain from his loss, and he doesn't want to get attached to Ellie, especially after losing his own daughter her age and Tess. I don't know if it's a spoiler because this game is a decade old, but people die. A lot of people die.
We square. We're square. And get the fuck out of my town.
I'm excited to experience the story that millions of others has heralded as one of the best in gaming. It's getting there that's the problem. The story is good and the gameplay is meh. Honestly, this game reminds me of Ghost of Tsushima, God of War, and just about every other Sony first-party game they've put out in the last couple years. There's a charm to it and branding that makes sense for Sony, but when it comes down to it, I don't think I like these games, just the stories they tell. I don't like the God of War combat system. Going from such a fast-paced style to a slowed-down RPG didn't feel good to me. It's not bad, I just don't particularly take to it. I was hating it until I got the blades and sped combat up a bit in 2018. Ragnarok was more bearable after I played 2018 and found things I liked about the combat, but it's not my preferred style. You can have a deep narrative and a well-paced combat system without slowing down players to a crawl. Ghost of Tsushima did a great job with this. They had amazing and well-paced stealthy combat, as well as 1v10 enemy encounters that weren't impossible but just took a bit more effort and skill to complete. Every game has its quirks, but with Sony, it's as if they're taking the same style of gameplay and reskinning it. That doesn't make it bad. You can say Square Enix is doing that with JRPGs, or Activision Blizzard is doing that with shooters. These companies are sticking to what they know and it's working. Unless you're Ubisoft. Yikes. Gaming is very subjective. Sony has a massive fan base that can seem downright cult-like, but once you've had one of these narrative experiences shared with millions of others, you begin to have a sense of pride and sometimes delusion with your platform of choice. And Nintendo and Xbox fanboys aren't any better. The problem with The Last of Us and PlayStation games in 2023 is that there really isn't a problem. It's all a bunch of people trying to take their opinion and make it a concrete fact. One side says they're masterpieces and the other says they're not even games to begin with. And then I sit in the middle and say, these games are enjoyable with great narratives, I wish the combat was better. A game can be a good game and you not like it. There are a bunch of good interactive story games, but I do not like those games. Am I looking forward to the next Sony single player game / movie? Not really, but they have so many other games like Spider-Man 2 and Forspoken that break the mold that I can't really give them too much flack for. Though I am kind of burnt out of the over-the-shoulder Sony game. What do you think about PlayStation games? Are they all the same? Do you even consider them games? Let me know down below. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.